Roger Percelli's here, and Tom Canon's here. They're
Hola.
gonna.
Hey, how you doing?
They're gonna build the car.
Make sure you
Roger Percelli, I'm sure you know who these guys are if you're watching this video. Roger Percelli, I believe, is a super stock national champ for this year, and Tom Canon also has a deep-rooted history in HO racing. Tom Canon has some part in running the Mahopra series.
Yep.
Roger Percelli, yeah, they both.
Yep.
So I just wanted to give a couple of thanks here. Slot Tech did donate some ceramic magnets for this. Let's see what other parts that we have that are donated here. Dan Cronin from Viper Scale Racing, he donated some parts to us, a chassis, some pickups, some hangers, and some spacers and stuff like that. I'm not sure if Tom and Roger are going to use that chassis because Tom has previously flattened this chassis. And I think that might be it for the donated parts. I don't want to.
That's pretty strong.
I don't want to skimp on it, but I don't want to cheat anybody. But I think that's it for the donated parts that we have on there. We'll be using a Quicker Engineering front end here.
No, we're going to use Roger's donating a front end. We're using a Wizard front end.
Yeah, Wizard aluminum front end.
Oh, there we go. Wizard aluminum front end.
A pen and a front end.
And we got a bunch of Viper and Wizard parts here. That's what we carry here at our store at Hudson Valley Raceway in New York. Any other brand we will carry. We do carry Slot Tech, and I don't even know who else. I don't want to miss anybody, but we do carry a lot of parts here. All the ones that will sell to us as a Raceway, we do carry. And any manufacturers that want us to carry their product, will carry their product as well. So just want to say that all this build here, as we build an audience, is brought to you by Tom Canon, Roger Percelli, Hudson Valley Raceway, and our online store, slotcarstore.net, where all of these parts are either listed or will be listed early next week. So all that being said, I'm going to let the build start, and I'll let Roger take over from here.
Good morning, everybody. I'm just gaussing the magnets right now.
This.
Yeah, that'll work. Just the end of the axle. And I'm grabbing a front axle, and Tom's going to do the front axle and the hangers while I do the magnets. Here's an axle. Here's two wheels. Oh.
One more flying.
Yep.
All right.
Already lost the part. That did not take long.
All right, so I'm going to rough up the end of the axles before I put the retainers on, just so that they'll stay on better. So I'm just using a Dremel with a sanding head.
You can put it in front of the camera.
Just a regular drum sanding head. I just took and roughed up the ends of the axles. You probably can't see that, but
Some pretty strong magnets, motor magnets.
probably no need to gouge them.
Yep, or zap them. I like to mark the weaker side as the top so that the stronger gaussing side goes down to the track.
Can I have the chassis?
Which one do you want to use?
We use the
flex?
No, we use
This one?
The,
Okay.
the medium one, the one that. This chassis is already pinned. You can see the bottom of the chassis, back of the chassis. We pinned it, and it was baked in the oven between two steel plates, clamped together at 270 degrees for 30 minutes. And once we took it out of the oven, it went right into a bucket of ice water.
So the traction magnet's going to be zapped. They look a little low, very low. So we'll see what happens after we zap them. Excuse me for a second. Just let them melt over by the zapper.
Yeah, they do have a large zapper here, something that can't be brought into camera view. Looks like a Carlisle maybe, or something in the same ballpark.
And I'm using a specialized tool to install the axle retainers. Everybody always laughs at me when I say that.
So the magnets, the traction magnets were about, one was around 1250, the other one was around 1267. Let's see where we're at now. So tiny bit better. 1280-ish.
All right, so anybody have any questions about how Roger and I go about approaching races, about what our race prep is beyond the build, anything like that? Please feel free to ask us questions, and we'll be sure to lie about it. No, I'm just kidding. We'll be sure to tell you exactly what's what. Is this normal if I have this much space?
Yeah, I usually put a 15 thou spacer in on each side.
Okay. Good to know that prior. But
Yep, sorry.
I'm not experienced with the Wizard front ends. My bad. So
15 thou, with the Wizard front end, I use the Wizard narrow aluminum front end.
15 thou on each side.
15 thou spacer between the chassis and each rim.
Nick, can you grab the 15 thou spacers for me?
Sean Moulter wants you to call out the Gauss numbers. I know you have been saying them, maybe you just missed them.
Yeah, alright, so this one's a little bit better. It's just under 1300 now. It was much weaker when we first started. It was around 1250. The other one's right around 1280.
No, what would be an ideal number for a high strength magnet?
Anything over 1300 is really, really good.
Okay.
With my meter, with this meter here. This is the same meter that Hopper uses, but they're all a little bit different. So the motor magnets were very strong. The backside iGauss right here were over 1100, and the downforce side were each over 700. One was very strong, like right there, 760, 770. So the motor magnets are a very good set. These were all four magnets were supplied by Slot Tech. These are T2 motor magnets and they're G traction magnets. All right, so the magnets are ready. I'm going to grab the end bell and start working on that. Looks like we got a silver Viper end bell.
Also, guys, what's his name? JJ Frost said, "What's up, Roger and TK?" He was talking to me this morning. He said he hadn't seen you guys in years.
Good morning.
Good morning. Glad you guys are on. For those that are on, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you guys find this informative and helpful to your builds going forward. Roger and I are primarily doing this because, you know, we want everybody to be fast. We don't want just a couple of guys to be fast. We want as many people as possible to be able to run up front. You know, it's no fun to win races by 10, 20, 30 laps. It's, you know, better to, you know, have nice tight competition.
All right, so I'm going to start working on the end bell. One of the first things I do, and these are tricks I learned from, I hope he doesn't mind me using his name, but Chris Rondo. He's the one that really gave me some very key pointers on getting the end bells to work right. So the ears here, Viper does a good job with theirs. They're already curved to give a little bit of support when they're in the chassis up against the hanger. But what I'll do is bend them so that they're an L shape. It's not focusing very well.
Focus, yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying. So I'll do it with the GoPro, hopefully. You can see right here that it's an L shape. And that'll put more pressure on the hanger to keep the hanger from moving as much as possible. And when the hanger moves, you're losing power.
Yeah, it seems like to me we always got to use a lot of force just to install them. I wouldn't think that you would need to apply more pressure from those.
Well, if you're using force to install them, you're not clearing the hanger. So you have to make sure the ears clear the hanger before you push it in. If you do, then you're not going to use much force at all. And I'll show you that when I get to put it together.
Yeah, do you put the foam behind, right?
No.
No, I do.
So now I'm going to start bending the arms to get a little more. Bending the arms just advances the timing a little bit. And since we're using a Wizard Advanced arm, is that what we have? No, we have a...
Yeah, I wasn't able to get the Wizard Advanced arms in time, so we're using a Viper Super Stock arm.
Alright, so...
Okay, so the front end is installed. I'm going to do simple stuff like install the guide pin.
Hangers.
I'm gonna install the hangers. I'm gonna show you how we bend the hangers.
Go ahead if you want to do that now.
Yeah, we'll just grab the hangers. Stuck on the chassis. Okay. So, just using a flat pair of pliers, just grab the end of the shoe hanger and just give it a slight bend. And this is not really a performance upgrade so much as it's a making sure that basically make sure that the shoes don't come off. Let me see what
See the other one.
like. So, not sure if you can see this.
I'm not sure how many people are on, but feel free to ask questions, and we need somebody to read the questions out for us. Please. Putting you to work, Jim.
Not so many questions yet. Except for David Lear, he says, hey, whoever is knocking, let them in. He was referring to when Roger was putting the front retainers on the front axle.
That was me. Yeah.
Alright, so I'm not sure how well it's going to come out on this webcam, but I have the arms bent, and you can see that when you move one arm out of the way, the other one is coming down past the center hole, and that's really what you're looking for tension. And as I was saying earlier, you want to bend in the arm as such. Most of this is done by eye and experience from doing a bunch of them over the last couple of years, but again, the bend in the arm advances the timing of how the brushes hit the commutator. So the more of a bend, the more you're going to advance it, but you have to be careful with how the brushes actually sit on the comm, because if you bend this too much, you're going to get uneven wear on the brushes and they'll wear out sooner. If you don't care about that, then bend away.
Now I have a question,
Go
Roger.
ahead.
Slot Tech in a package of stuff they sent me some just arms for the end bell. And is that like a common practice for people to just install new brush arms in these end bells, or is that something?
It's a common practice. I actually have a video up on my site on it. I did one on that either last year or the year before, I forget which. But yeah, you can. The tricky part is the little, for lack of a better word, tit that the actual brush arm sits on. There's a circle through the arm, the metal piece. The trick is making sure that is clean enough so that you can get the new arm in place without it deforming and bending and basically ruining itself.
Okay. And since you mentioned that, I forgot to mention earlier that Roger has his new thing. He started the RPMs race cars, and how can they get to see your stuff for RPMs race cars? What's the address for that?
www.highrpms.net.
H-I or H-I-E?
H-I-G-H rpms.net.
There you go.
Okay, so here's the chassis with the front end installed, the guide pin is installed, and the shoe hangers are installed. As I showed you earlier.
Can you show them on the car the position of the bottom of the hangers, the change that it made?
Well, it basically just kind of moved them forward, so there's a slight bend forward.
Yeah, right here, it puts the hanger lower in the chassis. It does two things. It pulls the heel of the shoe down so that it's not heel heavy when you're running on the track, and it makes it a little more difficult for it to come off. There's another trick with the shoe to help with losing shoes, but we'll show you later. So I got the arm ready.
JJ Frost wants to know if that's the flex chassis.
No.
Is a medium chassis.
I need the timing bracket for this.
Timing bracket. You need a medium one, right?
So we got a Viper arm here. I found that about 14 to 15 thousandths of spacing on the front is about usually right where you want to be. Actually, they have an extra white spacer on this one. Sorry. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So before I put the timing bracket on, I'll make sure that the comm spacing is where I want it. And it's pretty good. I'll try and show you here in a second. So
Now in HO, because you know we're mostly a 1/24th Raceway. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So actually I'm going to need a little more spacing because as I'm turning this I can feel it clicking one of the arms. It's probably, yeah, it's this side right here. So I'm going to put a little bit more spacing on the front of the comm so that it doesn't cause any extra friction or, sorry, any other issues.
So on 1/24th, when we space an arm so it's in the center of the magnetic field of the magnets. Is that something that's more an issue, or is it more comm placement that's more important in HL?
Well, the first thing you have to do is worry about the comm placement, and then it's quote-unquote where the arm wants to sit in the magnetic field. And that has a lot to do whether you run the car in high downforce or low downforce. So you guys don't have traction magnets in 1/24th, we do. So you take, here's a motor magnet, here's a traction magnet. If the bottom of the traction magnet attracts the back of the motor magnet and you put them in the same side of the chassis, that's what's known as high downforce. You'll get the strongest Gauss field towards the track, towards the rail. That's high downforce. That's usually how you set up a super stock car. Now if you set it up the opposite way, with where this is repelling, it's not attracting. If you put these two on the same side of the car, that's what's called low downforce. And the Neo cars, sometimes you have to do that because there's so much downforce, it'll cause too much heat. And we lost one of the cameras. Its battery is dead. Anyway.
Just two more questions. Dave Lair said, so if it's a medium chassis that's been baked, would it not make it more stiff?
It'll make it slightly stiffer.
And JJ Frost asked, what is the reason for the medium chassis? Is it magnet strength, track, etc.?
So there's a lot of debate as to how much of a difference it makes. The flex chassis is definitely more flexy than the medium with both the G and the Viper. So my personal opinion is that it's going to help a little bit more on a plastic track than on a routed track. At the Nats this year, we ran on a, I think that was a 21st century track.
No, that was a buck.
That was a buck track.
Yeah, that was a buck.
So the routed
for super stock.
For pro super stock, right? So we ran on that track, and I ran a medium chassis with a Viper motor, a Viper medium chassis with a Viper motor, Viper M-Bell. That car had the same magnet package as this one's going to have, and that car was pretty fast. My backup car actually had a flex chassis in it, and now it was almost as fast, but it handled a lot better, and that might be because of the flex chassis. Probably not might be, but is more than likely. Due to the extra flex, it felt like it braked harder, which I like. I like a car to stop very fast. I think Tom's the same way.
Yeah, I run a lot of brake. And I typically prepare for the season with 2 flex chassis cars and 2 medium chassis cars, and I go to a track with the intention of driving whatever chassis for the track. So for example, today If I had the choice, I'd be running a medium chassis. I do more times than not end up running a flex, but typically plastic track, you're definitely going to use flex, and routed tracks you're going to lean more towards medium, but it's just an individual preference. So I end up building cars, and I don't overbuild. I know guys that have 10 super stocks in their box, 15 super stocks, and it's like I build 2 of each.
I've got 9.
Overkill. We've had that discussion.
Jack Newman wanted to say, he said he missed the magnet readings.
All right, well, we'll go back over that again later. We've already gone over it twice.
Yeah, I think anybody that's missed anything when the video's done, we will be posting this video. You can go back and watch it again.
Real quick, they started out, the motor magnets were very strong. They're 1100 on the back, 700 plus on the bottom. The traction magnets were very low, like low 1200s, and they got up close to 1300 after I zapped them. All right, so I don't know if you guys saw what I did. I have this tool from HC Slots. It's, I believe it's diamond coated right here, and it's to break in the brushes a little bit on the end bell. Since I'm not sure how I usually will break in the end bell for about 6 to 8 hours at 3.5 to 4 volts. And we're not going to have that time before we race this car today. So this is a little bit of a head start to help that process along.
One thing that hasn't been decided, and we're going to leave that up to you guys, is who's going to drive the car today. So first thing we're going to ask you guys is to chime in as to whether you want us to do a coin toss or whether you guys would just prefer to vote. So you're going to have potentially 2 votes. Vote for either a coin toss or vote for the driver. So let's get that going. You guys can decide how you want us to do this.
And that's between me or TK.
Yeah, one of the 2 of us will end up driving a car, and we're gonna either put it in the hands of you guys or put it in the hands of a coin toss. Yeah, cool. So, let's see what you got.
Any other questions right now? I can't see.
No.
Jim, are there any raffle spots left?
Well, we're actually oversold, and I think we are going to take a few more. It's our first one. We didn't know where the limit would be, so we set it at 20, but we're actually at 22 because Mike Tiffany called this morning, and I'm sure most of you know Mike Tiffany's deal. We're kind of soft with him because he had a pretty bad accident. We're lucky that he's still around, so we let Mike Tiffany get 2 raffle spots in. So so I can't tell anybody else no. So that's where we're at. And just so you know, right now we have 2 votes for coin toss and 1 vote for Roger, where we're not even there yet. We want to see if we want to do the coin toss or a viewer choice. Right now we got 2 votes for coin toss.
All right, so I have a Viper Pro brass bushing here and an 060 reamer that I'll just make sure that there's no burrs on the inside. Spin that in there. It's pretty good. Here's the reamer. Come on, focus, focus.
It's probably not going to focus. So we need to invest in a better camera. We'll get that before we do the next one.
So that's on there. I'm putting it on there without a spacer right now to see how well it fits. And this is what I was telling Jim earlier. Once I get these magnets to sit in the box and not lose the bushing, I'm going to grab an X-Acto to keep them out of the way, the ears out of the way of the hangers. This thing is not cooperating right now.
Of course it's not, we're on camera.
Yeah.
Just so you know, guys, for the focusing issues that we have with the live feed, we are recording this with a GoPro under 4K, and Tyler will be editing that later to try and provide some really good close-ups for some of the work. So if you can't see it now, you will be able to see it in a few days or a week or so.
Let me just see this real quick.
But the live feed will be posted on our Facebook page so that you can always go back and look at the live feed.
What's the matter?
No,
here, try this.
hold on. No, I don't think it's that. Just a second. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the motor box in there. It's being a little bit of a pain.
It's all right. And as an advocate for the viewers, like we'd probably like to know like what the issue was, just in case anybody else runs into it.
Yeah, the magnet doesn't want. There we go. It just didn't want to get clear of the back of the chassis. So this is what I was talking about earlier. I'll take the front end, the edge of the X-Acto, and put it in between the end bell and the hanger, and get it started. Like you can see, this ear cleared the hanger, and the next one has not. So I have to get in here and push it forward, and then push down, and it'll go real easy down. But the magnet is holding it up.
One thing that I do is a little different than Roger. Is I put a little piece of foam. Can I use the X-Acto without cutting it? Okay, right behind the.
He'll put it right
shoe
here.
hanger. And what that does, again, it's not a performance thing. That just allows me to pop a motor box in and out rather quickly. Obviously, it's something that Roger chooses not to do, but it's just something that I guess I'm lazy, so I like to do it and be able to pop a motor box in quickly.
So the spacing is real good. It's about, I would say, probably about 7 or 8 thousandths back and forth end play in the motor box, so we don't have to add any spacers or take anything out. So that's pretty good. Do we have a chassis clip?
You want a stiff one, or do you want the? Doesn't matter.
Not the flex one.
We'll get a chassis clip now. While we're doing that, let's see. I had 2 questions here. David Lear, his question is: can you explain why you're using T2 motor magnets instead of Tomy motor magnets? Now, I'll just say why I placed them on the table. The reason why I placed them on the table is because I can get T2 motor magnets and sell them here through my Raceway, where Tomy motor magnets are, as far as I know, no longer available from new old stock for me to resell. So you'd have to eBay or yard sale to get the Tomy motor magnets. I don't know if these guys have any more input on that.
Yeah, pretty much that's your source for Tomy motor magnets right now. There is no new source, if you will. BSRT obviously does make a G3 motor magnet, but they're sold retail only, not wholesale. So as Jim said, Slot Tech is willing to wholesale the T2 magnets, and they do fit the car. And it's obviously a good package to have, because Roger won with this package.
I have cars with both.
There is a nipple on one side.
Yeah, I know. It's right here.
Yeah.
I know how they go in.
I'm just telling you, I'd never seen them with that on there before.
The chassis looks a little, I don't know if it was when you guys baked it or what, if it got smaller back here, but the motor magnet's not fitting in there. It's just not clearing the ledge. I mean, excuse me, the traction magnet. First of all, it's very tight to get in here.
That's what she said.
But then it's not clearing the ledge.
Might need Tom's final adjustment tool, maybe.
I couldn't help myself. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, it looks bent, dude. I don't want to use the chassis.
Okay,
It
so
looks
we
bad.
have another chassis right here,
We're going to call an audible and switch chassis, because this one doesn't look like it's...
which is why I baked it in the first place, because we were having trouble with it. So.
And while this looks like a downfall from your guys' standpoint, it's actually a good thing if we run into problems, because then if you run into these problems, you'll understand why, or have a little more insight to it. So.
But to continue on the magnet discussion, it's a little bit harder, especially for somebody like myself who hasn't run G's for the last 10 years, 12 years, like a lot of you guys have, or however long the car's been out. It's hard for me to get motor magnets for the Vipers, so I either have to run T2s, or I had a couple of old Super G Plus cars that I pulled magnets out of and goused them or zapped them, and they goused okay. Or I have to go to eBay and wait for somebody to put a lot of old Super G Plus cars up for auction, and then bid on that and hope I win it. And I've won a couple of auctions like that, and I've gotten probably a half a dozen or so good sets of motor magnets that way. People ask me all the time if the T2 motor magnets are better. I think it depends on the track, just like anything else. It's not a magic bullet. It doesn't make the car the best car out there instantly. I had 2 cars at the Nats that I was having a problem deciding which one to run, and they both were just as good on the track. One had the T2 motor magnets, which is the car I ran. Another one had a set of G Plus magnets in it. So I don't think it matters. in the end game, as long as you get a good set of magnets.
Just for clarity, the chassis we'll be switching to is the soft chassis.
Yep.
And this is the chassis that was donated to us by Viper Scale Racing.
It also might change the spacing, so we're going to try it again.
How much motor play do you usually want?
No more than 10 thousandths. A lot of people use a lot more than that. I don't like the motor to be sloppy.
We're going to have to drill the rear axle retainers.
All right. I didn't bring that with me today, so
Okay.
because I thought it was already done.
Yeah, my bad. I thought we were going to use this one. You guys have a small enough drill bit to
64 thousandths.
that size?
Maybe.
No,
You
that's
wanna
smaller
measure
than
that?
that's smaller than the brass.
20, isn't it? I'll still measure it.
I got it.
It's no 20. No 21.
So we're retooling a little bit here with the chassis change. This chassis is not pinned in the rear end to hold the axle in, so we are locating
Do you want the
a
flex?
drill bit to
No, I like
drill the
that
rear
one.
of the chassis so that we can pin the rear axle in, which is very important.
And one of the ears broke, so I'm going to have to pop it out and change it. Like right here, that bend, you can see it's broken right there. I don't know if you can see it, but trust me, it's broken, so we're going to pop that off.
Do you want to just start with another end though?
Nope.
Okay.
I got the ear right here. Plus they get to see that if I keep it on camera. Sorry.
Jack Newman has a question. He just put bushings with a question mark. I don't know if you're asking why we're using bushings or what brand they are, but we can answer both of those questions.
So it pays to be on time. Sorry, Jack. We're using the Viper Pro brass bushing. That's the one I like. I know Tom uses the beetle bush, the beetle bushing, the blue one.
No, I use the brass.
The brass one?
Yeah, the brass beetle bushing. But I have used the Viper bushing in the front, and I don't really see any significant difference in the front bushing from one brand to the next. I just prefer the beetle bushing in the rear.
So what about all the new Teflon bushings? Everybody's got Teflon and Delrin bushings out there now. Do you guys have any feelings about those?
Okay, so I don't trust them, especially I've had bad luck with them, whether they're Slot Tech, Viper, or whoever.
Restarting the GoPro. It'll be edited later on.
I've had problems with them melting, and it's not because the car is getting hot. I don't know if it's the oil or what, so I just don't trust them. I prefer the brass ones because there's no issues, and I know other racers who've had problems with them as well, using plastic ones, and trying not to use his name, but he burns up a lot, we'll just say that, and it's because of the solutions he uses.
And that's not me, by the way.
No, it's not Tom.
Yeah, I as far as I've used plastic bushings in the past. Most notably what was referred to as the Peligi bushing. It was a black front and rear plastic bushings that were originally made by John Peligi and then sold through BSRT. I do still have some in a few of my cars, but I mostly use them in ProJet plastic. I don't know if there's a big weight savings, but and they don't rev and they don't have heat, and so I all the things that Roger just talked about, I typically never have that problem in a ProJet or a G-Jet type setting, so I have no problem using them there. But in anything that might produce heat, I usually use a brass or bronze bushing.
Do we have a Tyco pinion? If not, I can grab one.
I have one.
Actually, he donated a Tyco pinion. There's a Tyco and a Viper pinion in that bag.
Oh yeah, there it is, Tyco pinion.
All right. Now you guys prefer the Tyco pinion? Why?
I know Tom disagrees with me because it doesn't. The Tyco pinion is not as durable. That's why a lot of people don't like it. I think I get better speed numbers with this pinion over any other pinion out there, so that's why I like it. This class, it's all about speed. So
All right. And we seem to, and this is nothing against Viper or anything like that, but we seem to prefer the Wizard pinions here to the Viper pinions.
Yeah, and I use BSRT pinions.
Now, I have a
Yeah.
couple of questions up here on the
axle,
feed.
any axle for a G or whatever. I just want to make sure this pinion is on far enough.
JJ Frost says, Roger, looks like a bit of a struggle with those T2 motor magnets. Are they bigger?
They're slightly bigger. Thank you. They're slightly bigger. It's not too bad struggle wise. It's just they're a little harder to get in the rear of the chassis, and it's right here. I'm trying to point out this part of the magnet back here has a problem clearing the rear of the chassis. It's just they're slightly longer than the G Plus magnets, so it's a little bit more difficult to get in, especially because of the way I bend the front hangers. And I'm gonna have to take it out and replace the other ear.
And then the other question we have is Jack Newman wants to know, if you could use ball bearings, would you?
I'm not gonna get into that discussion.
There you go. You can't use them, so why ask, right?
It's super stock, man. Right back. The other ear broke. That's a typical thing with the silver plated ones.
Grab a pin vise.
Oh,
Do you have one? If you don't, I got one.
So the way I bend the ears and the process of plating the parts silver, it's my understanding that they acid wash it or whatever, and it makes it a little bit more brittle. So when I squeeze it to bend it in an L shape, sometimes they'll break. So I've taken extra parts off of end bells just for this reason.
Now I got to change the topic, go back a little bit. Sean Moulter did ask this question a little while back. He wants to know if you ream both the front and the rear bushings to 060.
Yes. Well, yes and no. If I feel a burr on there, yes. If not, then I won't even bother. So if I put it on the dyno, it's usually because I forget to remount the front one. But if I put it on the dyno and I'm getting like a weird noise or a weird number or anything weird or any sound that doesn't sound right, then I'll take it apart, and that's one of the first places I'll go back to is the front bushings. Thank you.
So once we're done, we're gonna put this thing on a break-in box. It'll be on the break-in box pretty much from the time we're done with the build until
This afternoon.
super stock practice is ready to go, and then we'll whoever ends up racing it, whether it's Roger and I, will obviously start practicing with it.
So what did they say? Coin flip?
We got 3 votes for coin toss so far. Tyler has a question. Break-in. I know everybody's got their own break-in procedure, but I'd be curious to share with everybody what your 2 break-in procedures are.
So I mentioned this a little while ago. Because we're in a rush, I started it with the diamond file here, just to rough up the brushes a little bit. If I don't have to use that, I don't. If I have plenty of time to break in an end bell, I'll break it in at 3.5 to 4 volts for 6 to 8 hours.
I obviously I don't have the diamond tool yet, so I think I'm definitely going to be investing in one. But because I often I think that would be a great thing to have, particularly at the track if you're doing a rebuild or you're short time like we are today. I've been doing my break-ins for 2 to 4 hours. You know, I don't know that there's benefit beyond that. Obviously, Roger thinks there is. So that's certainly debatable, arguable, whatever.
I need the pickup springs, a 9 and an 8. A 9 thou on the power side and 8 thou on the opposite side. So the power side is the driver's side.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just told I wasn't clear on what voltage. That's the 8,000. What voltage I use? I do 3.5 volts. And if I have time for 4 hours, I usually will let it go for 4 hours. And there's the 9,000. We are using BSRT springs.
BSRT springs, Viper pickup holders or hangers, and Viper shoes. I'm just grabbing a pair of Viper shoes now.
Oh, as I say, I thought I had a pair here.
I do want to take a quick minute here. I mentioned Mike Tiffany earlier and how he's kind of taken a backseat for a little while because he has injuries from a car accident. As far as break-in goes, he does sell, and we have it on our online store, a terrific break-in box. And Tyler just wants to get one here to show you guys. This is Mike Tiffany's break-in box. It's battery powered. Car stands on top of it, and maybe we'll run the car on that for a few seconds when the car is done before the video's out.
Can you grab your oiler?
What? Oil? Yeah.
JJ Frost asked, during the break-in, do you check for heat or oil during the break-in?
I oil it before I put it on the break-in block, and no, I don't check for heat.
Same thing with me. I just add oil to make sure the front and rear bushings are oiled, and never a heat issue.
So I mentioned earlier there's a tweak that I do to the shoes. It's right up here at the front. I just put it in a plier like that and trying to take a little bit of the curve out and push it backwards. And that angle back towards the shoe itself will keep the...
Show me that again.
I'll do another one.
Okay.
It makes it more difficult for the shoe to come off, especially on a G, because you guys don't have the bumper. So the bumper also helps the shoes from coming off, as well as protecting the pickup tabs in a wreck, which is an Achilles heel of any slot car. As you can see, the shoes are sitting further back on the hanger tabs than most people. They're usually way up there, and they'll come off real easy. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people lose hangers not hangers, but shoes and springs in a race.
Taylor Davis asked, what amp draw is normal for those armatures?
When you first start, it'll be at like 0.14. What is that? Milliamps. So it'll be 0.14 amps, 140 milliamps. When it's all done, I like it to be at 0.12.
My break-in box doesn't measure that, so I don't even bother with it. I just put it on and go. I've never measured amp draw in my entire 40 years of racing. Unless it was with a Wizard car. But in my G Viper building, I don't look at amp draw at all.
So I forgot my typical Dyno axle. So I have one here that's a little broken in, but it's a 21 tooth. So it should get us close to 5 with a 21 tooth. My normal one's a 20. So we got a little bit of work to do. It's getting better, and it'll get better as it breaks in. It's at 4:30 right now. After it breaks in for an hour or two, it'll get very close to 5.
And what voltage are we running at right now?
Right now it's at 18 for the dyno. But when we go to break it in and leave it on there, we'll set it at 3.5. It's where I like to keep it.
That's what I do too. 3.5.
So here's the car. I don't know if anybody has any other questions. If they don't want to see the car, I'm going to start working on the axle and show you what I do with that, and I'm going to put this on the break-in block. So right off the bat, it's at 130, 129. So once it's done breaking in, it'll be right where I want it. Probably end up at 122. This is yours or your dad's. We have. All right, so here's a Slot Tech 21. Tooth. I am going to drill it out.
JJ Frost wants you to sing for him.
You don't want me to sing for you, dude.
That's not happening.
Sorry, dude. This is just the BSRT gear jig.
What you look for?
This. Sorry, I'm all thumbs today. So now that's my guide hole.
He's camera shy.
It'll keep the it's just an old front axle that I shortened just to keep the gear in the same spot so I don't drill the same hole or drill too close to the next hole. The trash can. Can somebody just blow that off for me, please? Thank you. Oh, right on the floor, Nick. Kids these days. Right on your dad's back.
Tyler, go get Nick the broom.
Just put it back here.
Sorry.
So now, when we're done, I'll put it by the GoPro. There's a bunch of flash in here, and I'll get my sharp knife. You got to make sure we get this cleaned off, because if you don't, it'll get caught in the teeth and really mess up your gear mesh.
I'm just going to answer Ken Neely's question. He wants to know if there's any end bell tweaking, and what I would tell him to do is when we're done with the video, we will be reposting the video. There was end bell tweaking, but you'll have to go early on in the video to see about the end bell tweaking.
Sorry, I need to keep the gear close to my face because I'm a little blind, so I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm just cleaning the flash off of it.
I think everybody in the room over 20 is wearing glasses. I just don't have mine on.
Your poor nephew's probably bored to death.
Yeah, I know. He's got a phone over there. We'll make it up to him.
Alright, so Sean Moulter wants to know what ratio do you, he says both use, so I think he means each of you use, and why. And I did ask that question before we started the video, but I'll let you answer it on the video.
So,
Gear ratio we're talking about?
Yeah.
I'm assuming so.
Okay.
I'll answer first if you don't mind.
No, I don't.
My go-to is 720, and I've run that in all but maybe 3 or 4 races the last 3-4 seasons in super stock. At the Nats this year, I ran 721 because the car just wasn't performing the way it wasn't performing comfortably with the 720, so it wasn't stopping fast enough, and there was too much lag getting down the straightaway. So I ran a 721, and it was the same at the Nats at Lenjet last year on the Grand Champion track, but that was for a different reason that I went to a 21 tooth. There was such low downforce rails in that track that you really didn't want a fast car, and I ran my slowest super stock car that year, and made the main but didn't do so well in the main.
I pretty much mirror what Roger says. For super stock, I almost always use 720 BSRT gears. Today, you know, we're running a 21. If I end up running my car, it will have a 21 in it. The shorter straightaways, or again, like what Roger said, a lot of times drivability issues, you know, 21 will definitely put a little more drivability into the car. On my track, I have the 21st Century Clubman, which is a 20-foot table. I run a 20-tooth exclusively. And I do, again, like Roger said, my go-to at every track is a 20-tooth gear for super stock, and then, you know, I'll change if necessary, but it would only be to a 21. Yeah, we are racing on a Scorpion today, and like I said, my car is set up for a 21 tooth today.
Oops. I gotta do this right here. So just getting the axle started, or the gear started on the axle.
Let's see, we did have a question here, right? David Lear, he's referring to when you drilled the gear. He wanted to know what size drill bit.
Crap. It was whatever one that
It was a crap size.
Yeah, it's right there. Can you check it for him, please? I don't remember, Dave. It came with the little tool, but Tom's measuring it for you now.
I can't read it right. I can't read. It's like a 0.0570.
05, so it's probably 060. Probably just my caliper.
Well, let's say, yes, the caliper is off a little bit, so let's change this. It is 570. 575.
0575, somewhere around there?
Yep.
We have no packaging, so we're just assuming, and it came in the kit.
Yeah.
So
Actually, no,
this is
it's
the
yeah.
good. This is the nylon tubing that I use to put on the axles to space it from the opposite side of the chassis. So the gear boss, or excuse me, the gear side sits on that chassis, and we'll space it from there to get it close to the pinion, and then we'll put, I call it the axle condom, on this side to space from the other side of the chassis to keep as much pressure off the motor shaft as possible. You get a smoother ride, and the car will spin up the RPM faster.
And which side of the car do you put that on?
Actually, I need it back. Sorry. Well, the gear side goes on the white motor magnet side, and then
No, but I mean the axle condom.
right, it goes on the opposite side.
Oh, so you actually are.
Yeah, I'll show you in a second. We have to. You need to space the gear boss from the chassis first. So.
Yeah. See, now I've done something similar to that, using the gear boss, just pressing a gear boss on there and then adding spacers on the other side. I was made fun of for doing that. But same thing, I didn't want the crown to hit the pinion too hard.
Right.
Robert Brunner wants to know what size the tubing is.
I'm gonna have to get back to him on that. Actually, I think I have the packaging over in my box, so I'll let you know in a second. Just remind me to get back to that.
That's a good question, Bob.
I imagine you would just look for tubing with an 060 inside diameter.
That's where I start. All right, so we got it spaced pretty good from that chassis on the gear boss on that side of the chassis. So there's about, depending on what part of the gear, what side of the gear, because that's the one problem with the slot tech gears is sometimes they're I don't want to say out of round, but they're not true as far as on both sides of the gear. Like this is almost perfect. There's like 3,000 backlash right there, or end play right there. You go around over here and it's almost 10, and that's borderline too much, especially in a soft chassis car. But you gotta space it for the tighter part, otherwise you'll bind the car up. And I got this tool right here off of Amazon. It's just to trim the tubing, and I have a mark inside of here. I'm gonna try not to cut my finger off, but I have a little black mark there to tell me where I need to cut the tubing for a slot tech gear. For a BSRT gear or any other gear that doesn't have an inside boss, it works out pretty much perfect to go to the end of this thing here. But so now it's spaced from both sides of the chassis. There's very little end play, and not only does that keep pressure off of the shaft, but it also keeps the gear from moving too much and either chewing up the pinion or the gear itself. It helps with that. All right, we can put that back on the braking block. The gear is done. I just don't want to lose that spacer. We have tires for this.
Oh, what size tires do we want?
I think I was running 24s the last time I was here. What do we got here? You can put those on there if you want. I don't know if 22 is. Hey, Tom. Hey, Jim. Let's go with the 26.
Well, we can. One thing we could do with the tires is that the tires that he's taking off the shelf right now
Are probably not going to be the ones we race.
right, but these will be the tires that go with the car as part of the sale. So we'll let you know at the end of the day, or at some point during the day, what tires whoever drives the car ends up using, just so you know what our final setup is. But it's going to go out with 340 fronts and 26 rears, and that should be close to what we run today. It might end up with 24s or 22s, but it's going to go out with the 40s and the 26s.
I don't know if you guys could hear the noise the car was making when it was braking in, but every once in a while it would make a vibration noise, and it's usually what that is an arm or something hitting the commutator. So I just added a 3000 spacer to the front, and it usually clears it up.
And our rail height here at our store is somewhere around 13 thousandths. So you can adjust the tire size according to the rail height on the track that you'll be racing on.
So I'm trying to balance this between keeping them on camera and not destroying my neck.
There's some more on the front.
No, that's good. It's got plenty on there.
Oh yeah,
That sounds better.
Yeah.
Here you go, it's the front tires.
Oh yeah.
So it's good that we caught that now before it breaks in too much. What do you do with these front tires?
These are Wizard K.
You want to look at them?
Do you want me to see this?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so something I was taught for Wizard front tires is when they're punched out, they have a slight, they aren't perfectly round, they have a slight slant on the top. So you want to look at what side is higher on the slant, and that will be your outside.
So you want the thicker part of the tire towards the outside?
Yeah.
Okay.
And when you actually get it on the front end, you want to obviously get it as flat as possible.
I don't usually run Wizard tires, so that's why I had Nick chime in on that one.
And that is Nick Cannon, Tom Cannon's son. Most of you guys should know Nick by now. J.J. Frost suggests that we provide a setup sheet with the car winner, with the gear ratio, the tire size, the front, rear, the motor, etc. It's a good idea. I think
we can do
verbally we've done everything, but we could probably get all that together.
Yeah, we could provide at the end of the day what I don't anticipate. I don't anticipate that we'll change the setup dramatically, but we can definitely, we're going to stick with the 721 gear. I'm sure we're going to stick with the same pickup shoe tension as far as the 8 and the 9. But we'll definitely, we can write all that down and type that out, and we can post that along with today's results. Jim will post it on the Hudson Valley Facebook page.
Right. And
Can you grab a tech block, please?
Absolutely.
just want to answer John Smith's question, and if anybody else is out there wondering, he wants to know if all the raffle spots are taken. Well, we were going to close it at 20, but we will keep the raffle spots open until the end of the Super Stock race, to the end of the Gravity race. Actually, we're racing Projet first, so that should be somewhere around 2 or 3. What time do you think Tech is going to be for?
No.
Tom, what time do you think Tech's going to be for Projet?
Projet Tech will be at 12:45, 1 o'clock in that neighborhood. I think I had initially sent an email out to the local racers, to the Mahoper Club, and to anybody else on my list that practice was officially going to start at 11, and racing would start at 1. So if we start at a 1 o'clock race, we're probably going to start teching at about 12:45, so that we can get the race rolling as close to 1 o'clock as we can.
Okay, so then I should say, if we raffle this car up after the Projet race and before we start practice for Super Stock, I would say probably around 2:30 or so, something like that. We'll do the live raffle for the car. So we'll give it till then, till 2 o'clock. If you guys want to still get in on the raffle. And if you do want to get in on the raffle, it's $10 a spot. The raffle is done with a prize wheel live on the computer. It's $10 a spot. You send the money to JIM@HVRACEWAY.net. And that's all on the main page. And I'll type it here in the comment field.
Sure, we can try it.
Okay. You got your, what you got on there. So have you guys voted? Are we doing a coin toss? I can't speak.
A coin toss?
A coin. Okay.
I've got.
Are we going to toss a coin, or are we going to vote for who wants to drive the car?
Yeah, I've got 4 votes for coin toss.
There you go.
None for viewer, so I don't foresee that
All right,
changing
who's
in
got
the
a
next
quarter?
5 or 10 minutes.
I didn't bring a quarter.
Roger.
Yeah?
Sean Moulter asked, what size drill are you using for the rear pins?
I don't know. You guys handed it to me.
Yeah, we're
I believe it is a Wizard. Is this the Wizard one?
yeah we're gonna use the Wizard.
That one's 1/32.
We're going to use a 1/32 drill bit, and we're going to use brass pins. Initially, it was the 020.
Thank you.
We had an 020 pin, which is the BSRT style pins in this car.
I'm pretty sure that's what I use at home normally for the slot tech style ones.
Yeah,
The
so
U clip, the U pins.
so we're going with a
Yeah, that's not gonna work.
no.
It's gonna, yeah, it's too thick.
You need no 20?
You got
Yeah.
no 20? All right. We got
Switching back.
no 20 coming.
Yeah, the other one was too flexing. I didn't want
Thank you, Tyler.
to hurt the car.
All right, so if someone would be kind enough to
Grab a coin
grab,
and toss
grab
it.
a coin and toss.
Actually, no 21.
That's
Is that
fine.
close enough?
So Tom is heads and Roger is tails. Does that sound fair?
Yes. We're just waiting for a coin.
You get a coin?
Yes, anybody can flip it.
Here's a quarter.
All right, I'll let you flip it.
Maybe they'll let me flip it.
What am I?
Your heads.
All
Tom
right.
is head.
Tom is
Tom
heads.
Here we go.
We're going to let it hit the floor.
It's on the floor.
And it's tails, so
It's
Roger
tails.
will be driving the car.
So there you go. This year's Super Stock national champ will be driving the car. Somebody will be winning a piece of history here. Isn't that how, like, if you have a $1,000 guitar and you know, some rock star played it, it's a $10,000 guitar? Isn't that how that works?
That's already biting.
So how do you make sure you drill them straight, Roger?
Very carefully.
That's what I was afraid the answer was.
While Roger's drilling that, we will also mention that we are, while the car has a 21 tooth crown in it, we are also including a 20 and a 22, so you guys can change the car for your setup or whoever the winner might be. And there will be a couple extra set of pickup shoes also.
You got the pins? Is this one of them here?
There's somebody selling them on eBay. I saw someone selling them.
So one of my 124th customers, Gary Cully, we call him Hip, he wants to know what the rear pins do. And anybody here can explain that. I don't know if you guys are too busy.
They're basically, it's an axle retainer. What it's designed to do is to keep the axle from snap, because the axles just snap in and out of the car. This plastic chassis, the axles just pop in and out. Because of the speed that the super stocks travel,
All of them.
you know, super stocks, compression, you want to have you know, these pins into, it prevents the axle from popping out. I know that G-Jet racers, I think the purists of that class, they don't allow you to use axle retainers. I know in my Pro Jet today, I will not have axle retainers in, which goes against everything. But it's an original G-Jet car that never was drilled, and I'm using a regular G3. It's an old G3 that was originally a G-Jet that I'm using as Pro Jet, and it does not have axle retainers, but all of my other cars have axle retainers. So the car is back on the break-in box.
And it's pretty much done. Is there any other questions before we wrap this up?
Yeah, these guys want to get to practice, and we do have a race later today. Any other questions? Yeah, and also, I don't know if anybody missed the coin toss order, but Roger will be driving the car today. He'll probably be working on it a lot more now that he's driving it. And if there are
not
any
much
tweaks,
else.
you know, like we said, we will provide that information to the winner of the car, what was done to the car to race here at our store.
We're going to post it in general, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who gave us these? Whose is this? This your drill bit, Bob? Thank you.
All right, I think that's
Is that a wrap?
I think so. I mean, we built the car, right?
Yep.
It's on the
The
box.
car's built.
It
It's on the
sounds
break-in
good.
box.
Doesn't appear to be making any strange noises anymore. I think the next step is going to be to actually drive the car. And you know what? Tyler here had a good question too. What do you two prefer for guide pins? Extended guide pins or the regular length guide pins?
You gotta be careful with the extended ones with the slot, because sometimes it'll hit the bottom of the slot on certain tracks. So, other than that, the longest one possible.
There you
Right.
go.
So it's all about slot depth. So if you got the depth, longer pin.
And of course, our track is made out of half-inch material, so we made our slot. I think it's 1/4 of an inch deep.
And the
so you're
hardest.
not
And the
gonna get-
hardest, correct. Good point, Jim.
Yeah. So harder to prevent bending. Wear. Yeah, I definitely bent a few guide pins in my day.
All right. So I think that concludes our build. I don't see any more questions. Everybody's just thanking us. So I'd like to thank Roger Percelli for coming and Tom Canon for coming and co-building the car. Viper Scale Racing for their donation. Slot Tech for their donation. I'm probably forgetting somebody. I don't mean to.
Let's thank Jim for putting this together. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, thank you, Jim.
And Hudson
Yeah.
Valley Raceway.
And again, Roger and I, we did this to promote the hobby. We want everybody to be as fast as they can be. We want to promote Hopper style racing, which of course is why we're called Mid-Atlantic Hopper. So come on out and race with us sometime.
That's right. You can go to Mahopper's website. How?
Mahopra.com, MAHOPRA.com.
And again, RPM's website.
HIGHRPMS.net.
And
All
both have Facebook pages.
Yep.
Right. And we are Hudson Valley Raceway, and our online store is slotcarstore.net. We are constantly expanding our HO products on the site. Support us and support Mahopra or whatever your local HO or 124th racing venue is. And that's a wrap, and we'll see you next time. I will post on this string the link to the live cast. We will be broadcasting the races today, but they will be on our Ustream channel. So once I lock down the IP address for our Ustream channel, we will post that as well. All right, thanks for watching.